Hey guys, what is up? My name is Alex Patterson. I'm from the Doctor Who Guide, and I am super excited to be here on this amazing channel. If you guys are new here, definitely consider subscribing because this channel is awesome. I am super excited to talk about David Tennant and his episodes today because really, basically David Tennant was my first Doctor. Keeping it down to 5, that's gonna be very, very difficult for me. So I actually have my list of top 5 episodes, and then I've got top 5 episodes that are just classics that I think everybody needs to watch, and then I have 5 honorable mentions. Comment down below with your top 5. So number 5 on my list is The End of Time. If you've seen the episode, you know why this episode is so amazing. David Tennant acts his socks off. Bernard Cribbins as Wilfred Mott in this episode, brilliant. Wilfred Mott is one of my all-time favorite companions. He's just so lovable, so entertaining to watch. Brilliant action scenes and some brilliant comedy. You've got very serious moments. You've got tear-jerkers, and I'm not gonna knock the plot threads. Get it? Knock, knock. In this episode, the villain that is back is just incredible. Some parts of this are cheesy. You know, there's one character who's you see his face a lot, but I mean, I love this episode from start to finish. All right, for number 5 on my classics that I think everybody should see is The Girl in the Fireplace. Now this episode, I don't think gets nearly enough recognition because it is just so beautifully written. It really is a perfect meld of science fiction and history, and there's romance, adventure, and you just watch the whole thing, and it's got brilliant sci-fi concepts. You get everything from spaceships to Madame de Pompadour. Doctor Who is at its best when it is making normal everyday things seem scary, you know, whether it's blinking or drinking water or clicking talk. A ticking clock. There we go. So this episode does a great job of making normal things seem scary, and I really think that is a very cool concept that makes this episode timeless. Now we are on to honorable mentions. So first is School Reunion. Now, if it weren't for the classic series components and characters that were brought back in this episode, I don't think it would even make my honorable mentions list. I mean, the villain in this episode is brilliantly acted by Anthony Head, and I do think the Krillitane looked pretty awesome, but the whole setting, the chips, the kids, the school set, at some points it's just hard to take the episode seriously, but I do think comedy is in this episode, and the fact that they bring back a classic series companion, brilliant, brilliant. Okay, so now we're on to number 4 on my list of top 5s, which is the Series 3 finale. Now, this 3-part story brings back an epic classic series villain. I won't spoil who that is. It's brilliant. The cliffhangers in these stories are absolutely amazing. Martha Jones definitely comes into her own and does a great job. You get to see David Tennant's Doctor have compassion for this villain, and that is the moment that is so just heart-wrenching. I love this episode. There are some moments that are cheesy, but definitely check out that episode. My next classic episode that I think everybody should watch is Human Nature, Family of Blood. Oh my gosh, what a brilliant episode. If you've seen this, you know how brilliant it is. It was based off of a book with the 7th Doctor, and it was adapted for TV with the 10th Doctor, and I just think it's brilliant. Once again, Freema Agyeman as Martha Jones, just brilliant acting. It's really set largely in a historical setting, which is very cool. I love how it ends, and there are some of the best speeches that you will ever see in Doctor Who, and quotes that come out of this episode. The supporting cast is brilliantly acted. And then for my list of honorable mentions is Rise of the Cybermen, The Age of Steel. This is personally one of my all-time favorite Cybermen stories. I think a lot of us would agree it's been a while since we've had a really scary Cyberman-only story. This, for me, is just a great example of a brilliant Cyberman story. You get to see parallel Earths and dimensions, and of course the Cybermen are brilliant. Any story with technology taking over the human race or threatening the human race just ages well over time. I love the action in this episode. The supporting cast is great. Number 3 on my top 5 is the Series 2 finale. How could this not be on my list? It is a brilliant episode. Oh my gosh, heart-wrenching. David Tennant as a Doctor and Billie Piper as Rose, just acting their socks off. You get to see a great supporting cast. 2 major Doctor Who villains finally meet in the same episode. There's some sick burns going down between them, and this episode is just unforgettable in that sense. You get recurring characters from the Series 2, which is awesome, and the ending will forever be a huge part of the Doctor Who fandom. Anyway, you gotta watch. Next up, we have the classic episode Blink. Now, so many people have started Doctor Who fans with this episode, watching this, and people have loved it. And I really think that's because it's accessible. Most of this episode doesn't actually feature the Doctor, which kind of bugs me because it's so popular. But I think that sort of helps people to like get into the show and watch something. What we see are a couple of normal humans living their normal lives, and all of a sudden something crazy happens to them. They're in danger from aliens, and I think that really hits home. And of course, the Weeping Angels in this episode, the concept is brilliant. Everybody blinks. You have to do it eventually. It's terrifying. Next up on my honorable mentions list is Voyage of the Damned. Now, I think that this is one of my favorite Christmas specials ever. It's a classic based Under Siege. That pre-credits introduction, unforgettable. I think the supporting cast make this amazing. Lovable characters like Banakafalata, and you really can't tell who's gonna make it to the end, and you do lose people, and there is death, and the sets are brilliant. The villain's a bit weird. The episode more than makes up for that. Now we are on to my number 2, my second favorite David Tennant episode, and that is Waters of Mars. Oh my goodness, what a brilliant episode. The scale of this episode feels like you're watching a movie. It really is epic. You've got the Mars setting, and you've got a base under siege, and you've got Doctor Who making water scary. Now, if that, I mean, everybody needs water, and now you're making it scary. Like, come on, that is terrifying. David Tennant, really, round of applause for the acting in this episode. You get to see a darker, scarier side of the Doctor, and you're torn in two watching this episode. In some episodes, you don't care about the supporting cast. I think you definitely do in this episode. Next up on our list of classics is Silence in the Library, Forest of the Dead. This episode stands the test of time. There's only one part where an effect was used that I suppose looked very creepy at the time, but now just looks like a bad Snapchat filter. It kind of dates the episode, but otherwise, this episode is so good. Again, making ordinary things like shadows scary, and I think that's where Stephen Moffat shines. Shines, get it? Because shadows? Anyway, there's a subplot with Donna Noble as the companion, and I think Catherine Tate does a beautiful job acting, and it's just brilliant from start to finish. And honorable mentions, The Fires of Pompeii. Now this episode, so good. First off, it features Peter Capaldi before he was the Doctor. That is awesome. It also features Karen Gillan, who would later go on to play Amy Pond, as a soothsayer. Definitely gotta say, I'm looking back at that episode to see who's gonna be cast as like future companions or doctors, because we've had a Doctor and a future companion come out of that episode. Like, come on, that's gotta be a breeding ground for future Doctor Who actors. I wouldn't say the monsters are the best part of this episode, but I gotta say the acting of David Tennant as the Doctor and Catherine Tate as Donna is just amazing. Now we are on to my top favorite David Tennant episode. Once again, subscribe to this amazing channel. All Things Doctor Who is a brilliant channel. I'm so thrilled that I could be here. Now we're on to my top favorite David Tennant episode, and that is Turn Left, The Stolen Earth, and Journey's End. I think this is a brilliant wrap-up to the David Tennant era. I think it's a better wrap-up than necessarily The End of Time. And I love it. Massive episode. The main classic series villain that comes back in this episode, brilliant, scary, terrifying. You see some great moments. You see like Wilfred Mott is back for this episode, and it is just incredible to see him like take on this monster with a paintball gun. Like, just classic moments like that. You have some comedy, but what I love is how terrified everybody is of the villains that are brought back in this episode. Catherine Tate, brilliant, wonderful actress. And there's a brilliant moment at the end of Journey's End, which is just, it's the one in the rain. I love that moment. And the music in this is, I grew up listening to that music over and over again. And it is just, for me, this is the story that best encapsulates the David Tennant era. It is so good. The classic that I'm about to show you is Midnight. Now this story, so brilliant. Oh my goodness, Midnight is such a brilliant episode. The supporting cast is brilliant. You got Colin Morgan. It's a limited cast in an enclosed space with a monster. I think those sort of base under siege stories are some of the best ever. Midnight, it's creepy. This concept of being trapped inside of your own body and you can't do anything. It is companion light, like you don't see a lot of Donna in this episode, but I don't think that hurts it too much. I think this episode really stands on its own. And finally, as an honorable mention, we have The Doctor's Daughter. this episode is really awesome. I love the message of this episode of building a society on the foundation of not killing people. And David Tennant as an actor, he's brilliant, and he does an amazing job in this episode. And you get to see his wife play his daughter. It's very confusing because her dad is Peter Davison, who plays the doctor. So technically the doctor's daughter in this episode, who plays the doctor's daughter, is married to the doctor. So it's very confusing. And as you can't tell, I love the David Tennant era. The fact that I've brought a top 15 to a top 5 video. But I just think there are so many good ones and so many great moments, and I know I've missed out on some. So definitely comment down below with your top 5. Feel free to go to your top 15s or whatever. Subscribe to this channel for more amazing content. And if you like what you saw today and you want to grow your Doctor Who knowledge, your collection, and your connection with other Doctor Who fans, please do consider subscribing to my channel, The Doctor Who Guide. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe to the amazing All Things Doctor Who. Thank you so much for having me on the channel, and I will see you guys in the comments. Bye. There's a phone ringing.